patterns, so the basics of patterns. So we've looked at this before, but what we need to remember are three things. So for patterns, we know that linear means that you're adding the same amount each time, or the first difference is the same. Quadratic means the second difference is the same, and exponential means you're double or tripling. So we just need to be able to recognize when you see a quadratic and an exponential, but we need to be able to answer a couple of questions on a linear question. So if you want to take those down, you can, but you already have them in your notes. They're just kind of the basics of what different types of patterns are. So let's take a look at this first question here. So it says, fill in the boxes of this linear pattern. So to fill in the boxes of the linear pattern, what I have to do is I have to draw in my loops. And the loops go from one to the other. And what I draw then is I draw boxes underneath these loops. And in the boxes, I'm going to put in what's called my first difference. Okay, first difference. So in there, then, I know that to get from 10 to 14, I must plus a 4. Now, because they have told me this is a linear pattern, that means I know the rest of these are going to be a plus 4. Because my first difference has to be the same for a linear pattern. So first difference is the same. So that means that I know whatever I had here, I added 4 and I got 10. So that must have been a 6. And I keep going, then I add another 4 to this and I get an 18. And I add another 4 again and I get a 22. So I've completed my pattern there and I have found my first difference as well. So when I go to answer these questions below, it says identify the start term. The start term is just the first one. It's also known as A. So they can ask you to find A. So A is 6, the first one. What is the first difference or the common difference? It's also called D. So first difference, common difference, D. They're what you're adding on or subtracting each time. So it can be subtraction or it can be an addition. And in that case, it's a plus 4. So I can write 4. And the last part here, write the sequence in your own words. So to write my sequence in the own words, you say start at 6, add 4 each time. And that's it done. That's all you need to write. So say where you're starting and say what you're adding or subtracting. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to look at then is the quadratic pattern. Here's our quadratic pattern here. All we can be asked to do is to fill in the gaps that we don't know, so to find the next value, and to prove that it's a quadratic pattern. So they're the only things that we can really be asked here. So first thing I'm going to do is the same as what we did earlier. I'm going to get my boxes. So I'm going to go from here to here and from here to here. And I know then that I have a box here and I have a box here. And it's going to keep going with a box underneath and a box underneath. And that's my first difference. Okay, I need to do the exact same thing again. So I'm going to get a different color. And I need to say, because it's a quadratic, I need a second difference. So I need to go in between those boxes. And this is called my second difference. And then I draw my boxes under the green lines. Okay, so there's my quadratic pattern. Now I start filling in anything that I can. So I know to get from 2 to 4, I must have added 2. So I'm going to put a plus 2 in here. To get from 4 to 7, I must add a plus 3. So I know for a quadratic pattern, and this is all I can do so far, a quadratic pattern, these must be the same number. So I know if I'm going from 2 to 3, I'm plussing a 1. But I know these have to be the same thing. So they all have to be a plus 1. So that means now that I know how to get from here to here, because I know I need to add on a 1. So that's going to be a plus 4. And this is going to be a plus 5. So I know now to get from here to here. It's like a domino effect. To get from 7 to the next one, I have to plus a 4. So that's going to be an 11. And then the same thing, to get from here to here, I need to plus my 5, and that's going to be a 16. So I know because they told me a quadratic pattern, I have to do this. The other thing they can do is they can give you lists of patterns and you have to be able to say what type they are. So if I give a list of if I gave this, we'll say for instance as my question, they said, well, is that a quadratic, is it linear, or is it the other one? I can see I'm going 2, 4, so I am doubling, but the next one is an 8, so it's not doubling, it's or tripling. I know if I go 2 to 4, I'm plussing 2, and then I'm plussing 3, so it's not, the first difference isn't the same, so it's not linear. And finally then, I do out my loops. I see that there is a pattern emerging here. I'm seeing I'm adding 1 each time, so that means my second difference is the same, so it's a quadratic pattern. And they're the only questions that we can be asked then on patterns.